There are several paths and eons that exist in the Star Rail universe. Each of them function differently, with Nanook just wanting to destroy everything while Yaosha wants you to live forever. Those that follow these differing paths do so because of either their own beliefs or sometimes because they were naturally drawn to it. But what if you, I mean the physical person watching this video, was Isekaid into Star Rail? Which of these paths, eons, and factions would be the most beneficial for you and which would likely end up getting you killed? That's what we'll talk about in this video. Before we discuss who your next god will be, if you want to see more Honkai Star Rail content, do consider subscribing to the channel. There's quite a few choices to be had here when choosing a path or an eon to follow, but to keep this video concise, let's talk about only the 7 main playable paths. In addition, for this scenario, you'd just be a normal human with no protagonist abilities, so I'll be considering the pros and cons of each path and eon from that perspective. Finally, this is mostly for fun, don't take any of these too seriously. Let's start off with the first path the Trailblazer is exposed to, the Path of Destruction. The path of destruction is, well, about destroying things. Nanook, who is the eon of this path, has the belief that the universe is a mistake and none of it should exist. Because of this, Nanook has taken it upon himself to destroy all of it. It's pretty simple and straightforward, to be honest. The factions that follow Nanook, the Anti-Metal Legion and the Annihilation Gang, both follow the direction of their god and do whatever they can to destroy anything and everything in their path, whether it be towns or planets. The Legion is more coordinated while the Annihilation Gang is far more chaotic. Personally, they both kind of remind me of Korn, the Chaos God from Warhammer, in that their beliefs are pretty simple and straightforward. Just destroy whatever you can, the bigger the better. So, is this a good choice for you? Well, if you were a human, unless you are a purely chaotic person or perhaps an anarchist, you might want to avoid this one. While there is bliss in simplicity, the fact that your goals are just to destroy things may not be something so easily accomplished. Plus, by virtue of being a destroyer, most people in the universe will dislike you and most likely oppose you or worse, try to get rid of you. So if you're looking to have a more chilled life and aren't too keen with destroying things, the Path of Destruction and its factions may not be entirely suitable. Plus, keep in mind that once everything is destroyed, you're also technically on that list as well. Next up, we have the Path of the Hunt, that focuses more on determination, ruthlessness, and tenacious behaviors. The Path of the Hunt is a pretty middle road option, not being too good or too bad either way, but I'm kinda leaning more towards the bad, at least to me. Let me explain why. If you were to follow this path, your life will mostly be focused on the act of the hunt. What this translates to is mostly helping Lan, the Eon of the Hunt, in destroying all foes that it deems needs to be destroyed. This is mostly because before it ascended, another faction, the Abundance, had destroyed its home planet, and its hunger for vengeance and revenge caused this path to form. So as much as the Path of the Hunt looks at determination and may even appear noble at times, it's also quite akin to revenge. But what does this mean for the average person? Well, it's likely that you would be on one of the Xianzhou ships, working as perhaps a Cloud Knight or from the Alchemy Commission or even as a craftsman. This in itself isn't a bad life. However, because of the nature of the hunt and the unkillable nature of the abundance, your life is constantly filled with war and endless battle. You see, Lan doesn't care about the cost that its hunts incur, and he treads a thin line between salvation for those he saves through his hunts and the utter destruction he leaves behind. So your life will sort of be in the middle of that. At times, you'll have a pretty chill life on one of the Xianzhou ships, and then suddenly, the alarm bells will ring, the military draft is called, and you're stuck on the battlefield with your spear trying to kill a deer that can bring itself back to life. Even if you aren't in the military, civilians die all the time. And guess what? You're one of those civilians. The alternative though would be to join the Galaxy Rangers, an altruistic group who fight against evil and uphold justice. Not much is known about them at this point, but based on their description, I'm pretty sure they're some Star Rail Power Rangers. That's why the hunt is a pretty mid choice in my opinion, as you either join a group that may cause you to die due to collateral damage, or join a different group that may get you killed because you're functionally the Power Rangers. So far, these choices seem pretty grim, so let's take a look at a positive one, the path led by the Aeon News. The path of erudition is all about gaining knowledge and the pursuit of said knowledge. So long as you work towards expanding your understanding of the universe, or even perhaps behave in a scholarly or strategic manner, you would be contributing to the path of erudition and likely will be welcome there. The path itself doesn't have civilizations at its beck and call, but it does have two very well known groups that follow it, the Genius Society and the Intelligentsia Guild. Both these factions have contributed immensely to the universe through their research and scientific discoveries. News is also pretty approachable, and anyone who can find its temple can ask it anything, and even request gifts or blessings, which it is more than happy to give, assuming you are worthy. So if you were to be part of this path, you are doing so knowing you'd be accepted for who you are and might even contribute to the betterment of humanity in the greater universe. It sounds like a pretty good deal, right? The only catch here is that, well, you gotta be smart. Not only do you have to be smart, but you have to be a genius in a universe filled with trillions of people. What I mean is that anybody can pursue the path to better themselves through education, but only those who are genius level people can truly gain the benefits from news. So ask yourself, do you think you're smart enough more than an average person? If you are, the path of erudition seems like a good path to be a part of, but if you have trouble doing math in your head like I do, then the path of erudition might not get you far. There isn't any prospect of death, but even the Genius Society is known to have some drama and sketchy characters. Now, what if you don't want to spend so much time thinking about things and just want to go with the flow? Well, then you have the path of harmony and the family. The Aeon of Harmony, Shipei, looks to essentially make the universe a better place. They exemplify traits such as understanding, support, and cooperative behaviors, and essentially work to make sure that all can exist in, well, harmony. Those who are strong should defend the weak, and only when everyone works together can we survive the universe. This is the mantra of the harmony. So, on paper, you would probably thrive being a part of this positive collection of people, as every person will support you and back you up whenever you need it. That being said, there are hints of the family and Shipei being, how should I put it, a bit obsessed with their goals. A few things about how they are described in the law may indicate that the family is one of those join us or die cults. They want harmony, yeah, but by any means necessary. Now, because we don't know much about them, it could go either way here, and why I think they are sort of a good middle ground choice. If I'm wrong, then you'll be part of a group that has an overall positive vibe. But if I'm right, then, well, you're kinda in a cult. Next up, we have nihility, which is the least known path at this point. Basically, for those that tread the path of nihility, the entirety of existence is pointless. So I would imagine you wouldn't actively choose this path, but more likely, you would naturally gravitate towards it if you already have nihilistic tendencies. The factions from this path are also kind of weird. With other factions, you're joining groups that actively want to progress the path or serve their eons. But the Nihility factions seem to be a little bit different, and they're made up of the Device X and the Doctors of Chaos. Device X are those that believe as X, the Eon, does, and has embraced the void in its entirety. Unfortunately, they are functionally an enigma, and even geniuses cannot clearly figure out what the intention of this group even is. The other group are the Doctors of Chaos, who on one random day ran into X. Their goal since then has been to convince X that life is worth living. I don't know why they're doing this, but their mission basically amounts to trying to convince a godlike mass of depression to not be sad. That's their whole purpose. So on one hand, you have a faction which is a giant mystery, nobody even knows what they do or if they even exist. And on the other hand is a group that's just trying to convince X, the Eon, to look at the brighter side of life. I don't think this is one group you want to actively join either way unless you already have given up on life or something. We are now nearing the end, so let's talk about the abundance. Now, the abundance is rather interesting. On one hand, it promotes the type of thinking or emotions that are related with helping others and healing. Characters like Natasha or those from the Alchemy Commission who are actively involved in the medical side of things can be said to contribute to the path of abundance. On the other hand, the Aeon of Abundance, Yaosha, seems to be so fixated with ensuring everyone stays alive for as long as possible that mutants and undying zombies are just fine with her. Then, when you look at the factions related to the abundance, you get a bunch of crazy people who are either just chasing after immortality or groups that have already obtained immortality. There is a faction among them called the Unshackled, whose primary concern is the release of any life form from dangerous situations, but they are indiscriminate in their practices, meaning they could release a harmless doggy today or a dangerous dragon tomorrow. I think if you were like a low-key, quieter member of the Path of Abundance, it may provide some benefit to you, but overall, it seems the higher on the ladder you go, the higher the chance of crazy mutations and excessively prolonged life affecting your whole being. Almost like Nurgle from Warhammer actually. It's kind of weird. Anyways, on to the very last faction on this list, which is the Path of Preservation. Now, personally, I think this is one of the better ones to join if you're a normal person. As part of the preservation, your primary goal is the preservation of things around you, be it people or things. It's tied to more pensive behaviors such as patience, sacrifice, and defensive behaviors. The factions are also pretty reasonable, where you can join either the IPC, where you get a pretty good job and a normal lifestyle with lots of promotion possibilities, and the architects, who focus more on ensuring the safety of others. On paper, they are pretty noble in their intentions, and things only start going south when you start getting involved with some of the more shady business practices and politics. But to the average person, it's likely not going to be something of concern. I mean, ask yourself, would you prefer to be with a faction that has office politics, or one that requires you to go to war every time they see an immortal deer? The number of paths that exist within Star Rail goes beyond the 7 that I mentioned here. There are still those of the path of elation, trailblazing, remembrance, finality, and even beauty. So, truth be told, you would be spoiled for choice. Plus, even if you were Isekaid into this universe, the reality is that you don't have to follow one path. You could actually align yourself with a multitude of them and act in the way that fits your current mood or personality. There isn't a wrong answer here, so don't take this too seriously. To add to that, there is still much we don't know about paths like nihility, harmony, and abundance, so there could be positives to them we just aren't aware of at this moment. Personally though, I would think your best bet would be preservation or erudition, as those seem to be the safest, but maybe you're batshit crazy and something like the destruction or nihility might be right up your alley. If you had to choose only one path, which one would it be? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, do consider liking and subscribing to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks so much for watching, and as usual, have a nice day.